Hey guys, this is Bix Weir, road-to-road.com. I'm here with our good friend Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin. We've been making him work really hard to get silver for Road to Road members, and I love that. I love that he's working his ass off, and he's staying on top of the market for us too. So, Andy, thank you for all you've done, and let us know what's going on these days.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Bix. I want to talk about several things that I'm very concerned about on the broader picture, but let's first talk about what's going on with the product that a lot of your listeners have ordered. Most of it has been delivered. There is a good deal of product, however, in Canadian maple leafs that I'm waiting for. Let me just paint a picture for you first. I want everyone to understand how this industry works and what this supply chain disruption really means, and then how I look at it moving forward from a broader perspective. Mid-March, after a barrage of your listeners calling, we placed orders for tens of thousands of silver maple leafs, north of 50,000. We paid for it. And then 4 or 5 days later, the Canadian Mint shut down with my money and without sending me the product. They were shut down for over 2 weeks for the same reason that all businesses are shutting down right now. Coronavirus and deep cleaning and opening back up under limited capabilities here last week. And so I've been promised today the majority of them are coming to me next week. I spoke with the Canadian Mint. The majority of them are on the way to us this week. So for all the listeners out there, whether they bought from Miles Franklin, whether they bought from SD Bullion, JM Bullion, APMEX, I'd like to just lay something out here. All of us are legitimate companies, and all of us are going to deliver the product. The disruption in the supply chain is very frightening to me, and it's very real, Bix. It's very real in the respect that normally when I place an order with the Royal Canadian Mint, we have the product within 10 days. This is anything but normal. And when the Mint shuts down and keeps your money and doesn't deliver, there's not a whole lot you can do. But even taking it a step further and looking at the big wholesale companies that normally have 50 people packing up boxes all day long, they're now down to 3 to 5 people with 50 times more demand than they've ever seen because they're practicing social distancing. Very often in this industry, if someone told me there were delivery delays, I would immediately say that company's full of crap, stay away from them, because if you deliver quickly, you're a legit company. But I've never experienced disruptions in the supply chain the way that we are seeing them right now. All of the people that have promised us product, from the US Mint, we'll get to that in a moment, to the Canadian Mint, to all the major suppliers and distributors, are all good for it, and they're all using their best intentions. But when you look at the logjam, that social distancing, that disruptions in the supply chain from the mints on down have created, it's created something that we're all having to roll with constantly. So the first thing I want to promise each and every person is that I'm expecting to be fully up to what we've committed to already by next week, delivered to everybody from the Royal Canadian Mint. And that's a big relief for me. But I just want to explain to you that I'm really concerned about something moving forward. And I kind of want to give you my take on that. I'm sure you've noticed, Bix, the tremendous volatility in the stock market, up 1,000, down 1,000. We're seeing it again here today. To me, what that symbolizes is the Fed pushing up the S&P and the Dow futures to as Sinclair says, MOPE, management of perception economics, to manage the perception of what's happening. And the people who have been in the market for the last 12 years, who have been the beneficiary of the Fed-induced asset price inflation in the securities, they're bailing. And I'm getting phone calls that go a lot like this. Hey, Andy, I was referred to you by such and such. He's a client of yours. Well, I've never bought any product before, but I just closed out of my stock portfolio. I have $2 million. What can I buy? Now, Bix, we never got phone calls like that in 30 years, and we do $200 million a year in sales. Mm-hmm. So what's happening right now is you have all of that pent-up asset price inflation that's freaking out. A lot of these baby boomers are pulling out, creating price inflation. And the first place we're seeing that manifest is in my industry, where premiums are going to the moon on everything. Everything's getting impossible to buy in this broken down supply chain. So when I look at my inventory sheet, I'm owed over 25,000 silver kangaroos from the Perth Mint that are supposed to be here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, silver. I'm owed 15,000 silver eagles that are supposed to be here in the next week, But if we look at what what the U.S. Mint is doing all of a sudden with their distribution of Silver Eagles, all of a sudden today, they're telling us there's a major delay. Nothing is being delivered this week. They only sent 350,000 out all of last month. Supposedly, kind of what you were saying last week, they've dedicated almost all of their capacity to the 5-ounce bat coin and to the Gold Eagles last month. And so their production is very, very low. The rumor is that Sunshine Refinery, the company that supplies most of the blanks to the Mint, is out of blanks. And the further rumor I sent you earlier today, I can't substantiate it, but it is a rumor in the industry, that the Mint went to Steve Mnuchin and asked him if they could pay 50 cents over silver spot in the open market to get blanks. My point to you is simply this. First and foremost, in 30 years, I've never not delivered. I've paid for everything that people have ordered. It's all promised to me in the next 10 days, and it will get delivered. But if there's anyone out there thinking that the prices are too high, they're not, unless things get better anytime soon, because my biggest concern is that this asset price inflation that's turning to price inflation right now before my eyes in this industry is going to lead to no product very, very soon whatsoever. And God only knows when things open up. And if you look to the top of the supply chain, Bix, you got 15 to 20% of all the gold and silver mines across the globe, if not more, completely shut down, and all the refineries shut down. The Mint's working at maximum capacity with skeleton crew, people packing and processing, all the way to the refiners who are doing the same thing. And when you got the U.S. Mint in West Point, New York, and the Canadian Mint that's already been shut down once, is the only two mints in North America, and nobody's selling, because that's why they say there's no bull market like a gold bull market, because nobody sells. The higher the price goes only reinforces their concern. All I can tell you is in 30 years, I've never seen anything like this. I'm working 20 hours a day, trying my best to keep the wheels moving. But if people are sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to calm down, for premiums to come down or prices to come down, I would say you're making a very big mistake. And I've never spoken that way in 30 years of business.
I would agree with you. And, with all the other stuff I talk about, the JP Morgan position being closed out, their short position, huge long position, they would obviously benefit from a upward move from these crazy prices. I think it was Chile, shut down, and Mexico shut down the mining of silver. I think it was Chile. Was it Chile? It's like 40% of silver mining is shut down right now. And, whether or not Mexico will ever export another ounce of silver, if they're smart, they would have not sold as much silver as they have over the past, 100 years. But, that's another argument that if I was Mexico right now with the current situation, I would not allow any exports of silver or gold out of my country.
Well, that's my biggest fear with the mines, is that a lot of them could very well be nationalized if this thing got very, very bad. And that's the old, that right there is the difference between mining shares and physical. Mining shares offer you a whole hell of a lot more potential, but have a lot more risk associated with them as well.
So I just want to put people's mind at ease, at least a bit, with the delays in delivery of Eagles, Canadian Maples, and Perth Mint, was it Kangaroos?
Kangaroos and 1-ounce Dragon bars, yes.
So I know the U.S. Mint is owned by the U.S. government that can print money. You will get your money. That's the credit at the end of that transaction. The Royal Mint is, I think it's owned by the Canadian government.
Crown Corporation, it's the same thing, and it will be, you will get your product. And they're already promising me that. I might get as many as 35,000 of the 50,000 I mowed this week, the rest to follow the following week. But I'm at their mercy right now.
Right. So that's pretty much a guarantee from those. And the Perth Mint, I think, has a relationship with the.
It's owned by the government of Australia.
Okay, so all these are basically national credits behind these transactions. You have the Miles Franklin credit, which is sterling. He's never had a complaint ever. And you've got the governments behind that. So I wouldn't worry about getting your metal or getting your money back.
Either one, and I even can try to switch people to a different thing. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this, Bix, because I heard what you said about metal in hand, and I agree with it in general. I have told people all along that, things are 10 days, 2 weeks out, it's on its way, which it always is, and then it always shows up, always. and then the mint shuts down unbeknownst to anyone with no forward notice, and you're just, there's nothing you can do but say, geez, now you're waiting too. And I paid the money, hundreds of thousands of dollars we paid, literally millions, that we were out until they deliver it. Now, these things happen very infrequently. And I think at this point, since we're way up on top of the list in terms of paid, these mints don't accept funds unless the production is already underway or done. And normal production would take, and delivery would take a week to 10 days. So everything is just jammed up. Even with the distributors who have stuff in product, they're in stock. They're so far back ordered, just trying to get things processed because of the lack of personnel packaging things up so the whole operation doesn't go pear-shaped. It's all coming. And we have people working literally 20 hours a day packaging and just living at the warehouse packaging all day long. But when there's normally 10 times as many people packaging things, it's much more efficient. Right now, it's not efficient, but it's coming. And it will be till my last dying breath, I will make sure that everyone gets everything. I just want people to understand, whether it's for me or another company, the delay is legitimate. It's legitimate from the very top to the bottom, and it happened. It just so happened that one of our very first podcasts about this, Bix, coincided with the fire hose being turned on, and it went from a water fountain to a fire hose, and like that. And then you had the escalation with the virus, and all of the social distancing aspects that come along with it are creating supply chain issues. And again, to me, the biggest issue of all is the manifestation of price inflation coming out of the stock market. I've never seen anything like it ever, where people are calling with huge amounts and they're very nervous and they want to, and they've never bought gold before. What do I do? This is happening in real time, and it's quite startling, actually.
Hey, on as far as say someone's just watching this interview and says, "Oh my God, I have to get my hands on some physical silver, any kind of silver." Do you currently have silver in inventory that you can ship right away?
I have 17,000 Perth Mint 1 ounce Dragon bars. They're the 2020s. I bought 10% of the entire allocation, which was 250,000. They're amazing bars. 1 ounce Dragon. They will be in my vault this coming week. I have a few bags of junk silver. Everything else that I have, more or less, is a week to 2 weeks out. Everything. And that's assuming that all of these entities, for example, I have 25 or 30,000 of the Australian kangaroos that are due to me in 10 days and 2 weeks or 2 weeks. Now, I hope it's next week. I hope it's in a few days. I'm just trying to manage expectations conservatively because everything's moving slower. In fact, a client of mine called me today who did a trade. He traded some gold to platinum. And he said, I'm just concerned about how long this is going to take to get it to you. He says, because it took 2 weeks to get my tax stuff from my accountant, one state over. And that's the point. Even the post office is practicing social distancing in segregating the mail. Everyone is working skeleton crews and working overtime just to keep up. And so, yes, I'll have it. I have to hedge it. I've already paid for it. If someone wants it under those conditions, yes, I'll beat any price in America, as I've been doing for your listeners. Any price. And in silver, I'll really beat prices. Gold, everyone's getting a little more competitive. I still will. But in silver, you'll notice a big difference on the kangaroos, on the Perth Mint Dragon bars, or the Silver Eagles. If your clients, your listeners don't mind waiting a week or two, I'm just trying to be upfront. But know this, I've already paid for it. In the case of the Australian product, it's coming to me. I know for sure. I deal directly with the largest Perth Mint distributor in the world. As far as the RCM, the Royal Canadian Mint, and the U.S. Mint, it just comes when they release it in certain allocations to all of us who are standing there waiting for our back-ordered product, not just me, lots of companies.
Okay. And when they want to get in touch with you, and I completely understand if people want to say, okay, just ship me what you have right now, or let me know what day and I'll call you back at that day. Where can they reach you? How do they get a hold of you?
They can send me an email at Andy@MilesFranklin. I'll respond to every one of them or pass them on to one of my most trusted brokers. Within 24 hours, they will be dealt with, if not sooner. I do have some stuff in stock, onesie, twosie, several thousand ounces of stuff that I can talk to people about. And I'll be upfront, and I'll beat any price. And if you respond to me at Andy@MilesFranklin, put Bix Weir in the subject line, I will make sure that your listeners get priority service pricing and person-to-person care. And I'll answer every question. If I'm up till 2 in the morning, that's normal for me these days. I'll talk to people until I'm hoarse. I'll respond to emails. I'll do all that I can to keep the ball up in the air and to keep things moving. I want you to know how much I appreciate you, Bix. I do, and I take your reputation very seriously. I take your listenership very seriously. You have an amazing following, and they're all very cool, understanding people. But it's very important to me. It weighs heavily on me that I haven't been able to get everything out the door. And it's only because my hands were tied behind my back where the mint shut down in midstream. Just about everything else has been delivered, and we're continuing to do so at a fever pace. But have people email me, Andy at Miles Franklin, put Bix Weir, Road to Ruta in the subject line. I will know exactly what that's all about, and I'll reply back with answers, or I'll call back if better, and we'll connect and make sure questions are answered very detailed at that.
Excellent. And that's Andy at Miles Franklin, MilesFranklin.com.
Yes, sir.
Also, I think moving forward from here, right now there's some risk. There's always going to be some risk in ordering physical silver online as opposed to going into a shop. But then again, going into a shop, you don't know if you're getting the real thing sometimes, and you don't know if you're getting a decent price. So, I mean, as far as if you customers out there are thinking, I need it in my hand now, go to your local coin shops, see what they have, see if they're reputable. You could shop between the two. And then also, if you have to do it online, or if you want to do it online for larger orders, I trust Andy explicitly. And the risk that you take is going to be bigger and bigger over time, especially as banks starting to go down. We're going to start to see bank failures. There'll be a lot of bailouts of banks and then more bank failures. So at some point over the next year, I think, we will have shutdowns of the banking system, which is also a risk. So you do have risk, but those risks will only be increasing over the next 6 months to a year and a half.
Well, and I have a comment on that. In the month of March, I did 6 months worth of business, in large part due to you. But the point of it is, in all of that time, no one sold anything. Maybe 3 orders, people selling a few ounces of gold just because they have to. It's their monthly deal to pay their expenses. They're their own annuity, so to speak. I would say coin shops are long empty of product because no one's doing anything but buying. And here again, that's the part about the gold bull market that why they say there is no market like a gold bull market, because it manifests itself out of fear and concern. The higher the price goes is meaningless. No one wants to go back into dollars. And so the only reason that I have product, truthfully, Bix, most of the big online distributors, I know who they work with. They work with either usually one very large distributor. There are 3 or 4. That one very large distributor, there's 2 on the East Coast, 1 in Texas, and 1 out West. Those 4 distributors working with just one, 99% of the time, at least over the last decade, they have more product than you'll ever need 10 times over, and a large selection. Well, they're all out of product, these distributors. The largest one that I know of, they have nothing to sell except for 1 ounce and 10 ounce silver rounds and bars that are 10 weeks back ordered, and 1 ounce gold eagles. That's why you're seeing some of the online distributors now having gold eagles, and they've lowered their prices a little bit on them. But everything else, they have nothing. I've been doing this for 30 years. Not only do we work with all the distributors, but we work with all the mid-level and lower-level distributors that these guys don't even know exist, plus a network of over 200 coin shops across the country that anytime they take in over $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 worth of product because they don't hedge, they call me, I buy it immediately. I've kept the thing moving, but let me just give that as an example. So I got a guy who I know, let's say he's in West Palm Beach, and he's been reliable as heck forever. And anytime he takes stuff in, he calls me. So he says, I have 9 bags of junk silver. I'm sending them in. So he boxes them up, sends them by registered mail. And by the time I get it, the way that the system's all gummed up, even with the mail service, could be 2.5, 3 weeks. Normally, it's just a few days. Then I unpack it, and we have to go through every bag and make sure that the coins are in good condition, and they are indeed pre-65. And then we package them back up in our bags and send them out. The whole thing is labor intensive and takes time. And normally we have this down to a science, but it's just one of these deals where If people want metal, I will, till the last breath I have, make sure it's delivered. But they have to have expectations of things are slower now than they are. And yeah, you could say they should have done it way back when, and that's true. Preparation is never easy when it's not evident. But
it's just going to get harder.
It's going to get harder. I mean that to my soul. My biggest fear is that if this thing, if it follows pandemic type of a script, the script is the economy opens up in June, everyone goes out, kind of like if your wife cheated on you, heaven forbid, and you take her back and say, okay, baby, I love you, I trust you, you're not going to cheat on me again. If she does it again come fall, you're going to be mentally ruined. And that's what my biggest concern is with this virus, that if it comes back this fall for cold and flu season, as they're saying, the second wave,
right?
The second wave of the Spanish flu killed 6 times as many people as the first. And if we get shut down, then everything will get locked down. You'll see borders locked down. You'll see mints shut down. You'll see there'll be no ability to get anything, and the markets will collapse. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to see. And I hope I'm wrong. So I don't have optimism for a more lubricated supply chain. I think it only gets worse from here. And as God is my witness, I believe that.
Yep, I agree. And do you have the availability to do gold for silver swaps?
Yeah, we do. But here again, you're trading a very important asset in these times, and you're going to wait. And I think the rationale behind it is super, super solid. Totally makes sense. But yes, I can do it as long as they don't mind waiting. For 2 weeks maybe, and that's assuming that the mint delivers when they're supposed to, which I'm hoping they will. And I'll let you know when I take things in real time and say, hey, I just got a bunch of these, I can sell it now, blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, yes, we can still take advantage of the ratio. I do have the Perth Mint Silver Dragon bars, which are amazing, and I have maybe 17,000 left. They'll be in next week. That would be your best vehicle to do that with immediacy in terms of delivery.
Okay. And are you seeing that gold is just as scarce as silver, or is silver more scarce?
Silver's way more scarce. Way more. Gold is available, not by any means the way that silver is, and it's becoming harder to get as well. But in a world of quicksand, gold is still a little bit more on level footing. Here again, you see more money come out of the stock market in fear, looking for a place to put it. Gold is the number one spot just because of the size. You know, you take $1 million worth of silver, you need a couple SUVs. $1 million worth of gold in a briefcase, no problem. And that's here again. That's what we're seeing. Large orders, the really, really big orders are mostly gold because of the logistics and because the Eagles are being able to be delivered quicker. But, silver is as rare as hen's teeth these days and only getting harder and harder to find.
Well, excellent. Hey, Andy, thank you for chiming in, and let's do this once a week. We'll catch up, and
I would
give everybody a heads up.
You're doing such an amazing thing for all of us, Bix. You should be proud of yourself. I can't tell you how much I thank you. I appreciate you. I admire you. I trust you. And the same thing goes for all the people who listen to you. That's an extension of you, and I take that very seriously, and I will never disrespect that. I swear to you, till the day I die, I will make sure that this all gets delivered. If I have to go up to Ottawa and shake the door in Canada and make sure that they get those out quickly, I will. But in the meantime, just know this. I'm dead serious about everything I said. There are always those people say, well, he's just trying to sell his stuff. No, that's not the case. I hope I'm in business a year from now because there's something to sell. In the meantime, I'll keep plugging away and keep doing what you're doing. I do appreciate it. I know everyone else does too.
Again, the email is andy@milesfranklin.com. Send them an email if you're interested and get your hands on the real thing, real physical silver or gold. Yeah. My suggestion, of course, is silver. But Andy, thank you so much, and let's get together next week.
Stay well. You look good. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.